DD India Global, we'll get you top stories from India and the region. I am Tanvi Taneja, and for news from the rest of the world, I'm joined by my colleague in London, Stuart Smith. Good afternoon, Stuart.
Thank you, Tanvi. Coming up, we're going live to Jerusalem to gauge reaction to the latest plans for aid to Gaza. We break down Joe Biden's fiery State of the Union address and hear how London is marking Ramadan. But first, back to you, Tanvi, for the headlines.
Sweden officially becomes 32nd member of NATO military alliance. US President Joe Biden says, with Sweden's admission, NATO stands stronger, more united.
It feels very good today, I have to say. It is a major step, but it's a very natural step. It's a kind of today we actually, in a literal sense, made Sweden safer and more secure.
US President Joe Biden vows support for Ukraine and Israel and targets his predecessor several times during his State of the Union address. Trump responds, calling it the worst State of the Union speech ever made. Gunmen in Nigeria kidnapped more than 200 school pupils. The incident takes place after morning assembly at a local government education authority school in Kurgia town. And with the campaign theme Inspire Inclusion, the world celebrates International Women's Day today. Sweden joined NATO in Washington on Thursday, 2 years after Russia's invasion of Ukraine forced it to rethink its national security policy and conclude that support for the alliance for the Scandinavian nation was the best guarantee of safety. Swedish Prime Minister Ulf Kristersson handed over the final documentation to the US government on Thursday, the last step in a drawn-out process to secure the backing of all members to join the military alliance. Good things come to those who wait. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken said this as he received Sweden's accession documents from Kristersson. Prime Minister Ulf Kristersson said Sweden is joining NATO in order to defend its freedom and democracy. He also looked forward to making the world safer and freer together with the United States and all other NATO allies.
This is a historic event for our country. After more than 200 years of non-alignment, Sweden has joined the Western defense community. Together we become stronger and safer. It is a big step, but at the same time a natural step. The membership means that we have come home to a larger number of democracies working together for peace and freedom, to our own neighboring countries, cooperation for security, home to the circle of nations where we have long belonged. Sweden is a remarkable country, and we are joining NATO to even better defend what we are and what we believe in, our freedom and our democracy.
In his State of the Union address, US President Joe Biden welcomed Sweden as the newest member of NATO, stating that now the alliance is stronger than ever.
America is a founding member of NATO, the military alliance of democratic nations created after World War II to prevent war and keep the peace. And today, we've made NATO stronger than ever. Welcomed Finland to the alliance last year. And just this morning, Sweden officially joined.
And DD India's Ishan Garg joins us with more on the story from Brussels. Ishan, after years of neutrality, why does Sweden feel more safer with NATO?
Well, one of the biggest reasons, or rather the biggest reason for Sweden to apply for this membership was essentially Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine back 2 years ago. Finland and Sweden collectively applied for NATO membership, and Finland was granted its membership last year, but Sweden has had to go through a very long process of having its membership being ratified first by Turkey and then by Hungary, both of which countries proved to be major roadblocks in its process to becoming a full-time NATO member. However, it's fair to say that Sweden had been on the bargaining table with the other NATO countries for the past few months, because it was inevitable that NATO was going to become a full-time member, because countries had given their implicit understanding to the NATO leadership that Sweden was going to become a part. As far as what it says about becoming stronger, that is actually a very valid point. Many defense analysts would point out, because NATO is the world's biggest military alliance, representing about 50% of the global military force. So by becoming a part of NATO and by giving up its 200 years of non-alignment, in the current circumstances where intelligence agencies have pointed out that there is going to be a big Russian buildup along NATO's borders, Sweden must feel safer being in NATO, being part of this massive military alliance.
And what does Sweden's addition bring to the group militarily?
Well, Sweden is what many analysts would call a small but mighty country, because one of the biggest things Sweden brings with itself is a very advanced technology when it comes to military equipment. It's part of these equipments that has already signed a deal with Hungary to sell, which many believe was primarily one of the reasons why Hungary's Viktor Orbán decided to ratify Sweden's bid to become a part of NATO. It's a small country that spends about 1.5% of its GDP on defense, but it has said that while in the process of becoming a NATO member, it is going to ramp up that spending even further, which means that NATO will now gain access to a lot of advanced technology that Sweden brings to the table, and in return Sweden is going to get the overall military capability and support of other NATO members as well.
Thank you, Ishan, for those updates. On to London now. Britain has said that it would work alongside the United States to open a maritime corridor to deliver aid directly to Gaza. This is what Foreign Minister David Cameron said on Friday. My colleague Stuart Smith is in London. He gives us more on this and other stories making headlines around the world. Stuart, over to you now.
Yes, the British Foreign Minister explained that decision was based on the assessment that people in Gaza are in desperate humanitarian need. And like Washington, London is urging Israel to allow more trucks into Gaza as the fastest way to get aid to those who need it. But with Israel still restricting the type and quantity of aid that can enter, the US, UK and other partners will open a maritime corridor to deliver aid directly. The European Union has also said it will open a humanitarian corridor from Cyprus to Gaza across the Mediterranean Sea, with a pilot project beginning today. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen met with the President of Cyprus in Nicosia to inspect facilities for aid shipments. Several countries are either already airdropping aid into Gaza or are planning to do so as famine concerns mount. The US is planning to construct a temporary port off the coast of Gaza to get more humanitarian aid into the territory by sea. The temporary port will increase the amount of humanitarian assistance to Palestinians by, quote, hundreds of additional truckloads. The US and its Middle East allies are ramping up airdrops of food aid into Gaza. The US military has carried out its third airdrop, delivering more than 38,000 meals. In joint efforts with France and Belgium, the Jordanian armed forces are also dropping aid over Gaza. In a statement, they said they carried out 9 aid airdrops in the northern Gaza Strip. The United Nations has said international focus should be on large-scale distribution and entry of humanitarian aid into Gaza by land, but any way to deliver more aid is, quote, obviously good. DD India correspondent Alex Cadier joins us more from Jerusalem. Alex, what have Israeli authorities said in response to this plan?
Well, Stuart, we've just had a statement from the Israeli Ministry of Foreign Affairs just a few minutes ago saying that Israel welcomes the launch of the maritime corridor from Cyprus to the Gaza Strip, saying that the Cypriot initiative will allow for the increase of humanitarian aid to the Gaza Strip. after security checks according to Israeli standards. And we've seen a similar statement from Israeli officials after the announcement that came out from President Biden's State of the Union speech. The statement from the Foreign Ministry here goes on to say that Israel will continue to fight Hamas, which calls for the destruction of the state of Israel. And we've seen just in less than an hour ago a statement from the USA, the UK, the European Commission, the UAE, some European member states, as well as Cyprus, of course, saying that they will work with the UN. Cyprus will convene officials from all the interested parties to figure out exactly how this maritime corridor will work, and they also welcomed the construction of a temporary pier by the United States. That pier will allow bigger ships to dock. The port in Gaza currently can only hold small fishing vessels, and so that will really allow the flow of aid to go in. But certainly that measure is being welcomed by the Israeli government, who's also being pressured by its allies to open more road crossings into Gaza. So really some strong reaction, of supportive reaction from the Israeli government so far.
We're now 2 days away from the deadline set by Israel for a ceasefire deal to be reached. What's the latest on that?
Yeah, that's going to be the big question, real crunch talks at the moment. Now, we know that the in-person negotiations in Cairo have wrapped up, and Hamas officials who were attending those negotiations have left Cairo. We know that that has ended for now, but the US ambassador to Israel says that conversations are ongoing. Just to remind our viewers, the Israeli government set a March 10th deadline before it launches a military operation in Rafah if a deal to release Israeli hostages is not reached. That is now 2 days away, but so is the holy month of Ramadan. We expect that to start on Sunday or on Monday, and that will be a real flashpoint here in Jerusalem because of access to Al-Aqsa Mosque, that mosque behind me, the third holiest site in Islam. That will be a big flashpoint in Jerusalem, and that will be a big question as to whether or not access to the mosque will be restricted. So far the Israeli government saying it won't be, and they will do everything they can to enable the freedom of worship in Israel for Muslim worshippers going to Al-Aqsa. But certainly the next few days, both in those negotiations for a ceasefire and for the release of the hostages and here in Jerusalem, will be crucial and will be tense. Stuart.
Thanks, Alex. Alex Cadier there in Jerusalem. The US President Joe Biden on Thursday laid out his case for re-election in a fiery State of the Union speech. He accused Donald Trump of threatening democracy, kowtowing to Russia, and torpedoing a bill to tackle US immigration woes. The address seemed to have a target in mind: his predecessor and presumptive presidential opponent Donald Trump. We get you the details of his 68-minute address to Congress.
Tonight, we can proudly say
Biden began the State of the Union address by saying that his purpose is to wake up the Congress and alert the American people that this is an ordinary moment. The speech gave Biden, who is suffering from low approval ratings, a chance to speak directly to millions of American television viewers about his vision for another 4-year term. And he used the opportunity to draw contrasts with Trump over abortion rights and the economy. Biden opened by declaring democracy under threat at home and abroad, and criticizing Trump for inviting Putin to invade NATO nations if they did not spend more on defense. Biden also used the opportunity for sending message to Russian President Vladimir Putin that he will not walk away.
My message to President Putin, who I've known for a long time, is simple: we will not walk away.
He also charged Trump, his Republican challenger in the November 5 election, with burying the truth about the January 6, 2021 Capitol assault.
January 6 lies about the 2020 election and the plots to steal the election posed a gravest threat to U.S. democracy since the Civil War. But they failed. America stood.
On the Middle East, the president said he had been working for an immediate ceasefire to last 6 weeks between Hamas terrorists and Israel. He added that US will be constructing a port in Gaza to get more humanitarian aid into the territory by sea.
Tonight, I'm directing the U.S. military to lead an emergency mission to establish a temporary pier in the Mediterranean on the coast of Gaza that can receive large shipments carrying food, water, medicine, and temporary shelters.
Biden knocked Republicans for seeking to roll back healthcare provisions under the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare, and driving up deficits. He emphasized his support of abortion rights and pledged to make them the law of land if Americans voted in enough democratic lawmakers to do so. He also renewed his quest to make wealthy Americans and corporations pay more in taxes. Biden closed his speech with a reference to his age, saying he had been told during his career that he was both too young and too old.
Terror struck northeast Nigeria after gunmen kidnapped dozens of pupils in the northern part of the country on Thursday. Parents said that on arrival at the school, the gunmen started shooting sporadically before abducting dozens of pupils and disappearing into the bush. This was the biggest abduction targeting a school since 2021. Ramadan, the holiest month in Islam, is anticipated to start either on the 11th or 12th of March, depending on the sighting of the moon. The fasting month holds profound significance for millions of Muslims around the world. A light display celebrating Ramadan was switched on in London's Leicester Square on Thursday. The city's mayor, Sadiq Khan, spoke before switching on the lights, saying the display was about celebrating London's diversity. This will be the second year the city has displayed Ramadan lights, after London became the first major city in Europe and the Western world to have such a display in 2023. That's it from me here in London. Back to you in the studio.
Thank you very much, Stuart, for all those updates. Stuart Smith joining us from London. More from Europe. In news just coming in, Friday marks a historic day for the French. Abortion rights were officially enshrined in the country's constitution a short while ago. This move comes after lawmakers voted overwhelmingly in favour of the amendment on March 4th. You're watching DD India Global, still to come on this show. External Affairs Minister Jaishankar says India and Japan are convergent on the big picture, and within the India-Japan relationship lie many solutions for the world. And Australia's Great Barrier Reef is in the grip of a mass coral bleaching event driven by global heating, the fifth in only 8 years.
Usually, our choice of transport is based on comfort, convenience, cost and time. But do we realize how do our choices impact the planet?
Under this project, we focus on planting indigenous trees. Smart City has set up the largest public bike sharing project anywhere in the country.
The data shows that there are not only too few green spaces for the number of people, but that they're also unevenly distributed and mostly located in the city's wealthiest neighborhoods.
He sold these systems to a bunch of cities around the United States, and in most cases they have not materialized. It's the short tunnel that connects up the convention center and is mainly just an attraction for Teslas.
Climate change means we have to shift from combustion engines to electric vehicles. A lot of money has been invested already and change is underway.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Global. I'm Tanvi Taneja. India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar addressed the Nikkei Forum on India-Japan partnership on Friday, in which he asserted that both India and Japan today are convergent on the big picture and the key concerns within the improved inclination and ability to respond in a more coordinated manner. The minister said the partnership has identified more avenues for increased cooperation as well. He added that the ties will draw strength from the larger activities together, especially the Quad grouping. As the world, the Indo-Pacific and our two countries evolve, Minister Jaishankar said that in the India-Japan relationship lie many solutions for us nationally, for the region and for the world.
India-Japan ties will both draw strength from our larger activities together, especially from the Quad, but as well contribute to its effectiveness and to its breadth. The bottom line is that the world is changing, the Indo-Pacific is changing, India and Japan are changing, but that in our relationship, many solutions for us nationally as well as for the region and for the world lie there.
India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi presented the first ever National Creators Award at Bharat Mandapam in New Delhi. The awards were presented for multiple categories, including the Best Creator for Social Change Award, Favorite Green Champion Award, Disruptor of the Year Award, Best Creator in Tech category award, and Best Storyteller. During his address, Prime Minister Modi said that National Creators Award recognizes the talent of our creators community and it celebrates their passion to use creativity for driving a positive change.
ईश्वर कृपा है, मैं समय से पहले समय को भांप सकता हूं और इसलिए ये पहला ऐसा अवार्ड है जो शायद आने वाले दिनों में बहुत प्रमुख स्थान लेने वाला है। ये इस नए युग को एनर्जाइज कर रहे आप सब युवाओं को सम्मान देना, क्रिएटिविटी को सम्मान देना और समाज की रोजमर्रा की जिंदगी के प्रति जो संवेदनशीलता है उसको सम्मान करने का अवसर है।
India's President Draupadi Murmu awarded the President's Standards and Colours to 4 Indian Air Force units at the Air Force Station Hindon in the northern Indian state of Uttar Pradesh on Friday. President Murmu awarded the President's Standard to 45 Squadron and 221 Squadron. The President's Colours were awarded to 11 Base Repair Depot and 509 Signal Unit. Group Captain M. Surendran, Commanding Officer of 45 Squadron, and Group Captain Shubhankan, Commanding Officer of 221 Squadron, received the President's Standard. Air Commodore Ashutosh Vaidya, Air Officer Commanding of 11 Base Repair Depot, and Group Captain Vivek Sharma, Commanding Officer of 509 Signal Unit, received the President's colours.
न केवल देश के स्पेस की सुरक्षा कर रही है बल्कि भारत के स्पेस प्रोग्राम में भी अपना अहम योगदान दे रही है। वायुसेना के सभी अधिकारियों और जवानों के लिए ये बहुत ही गौरव की बात है कि जिन 4 एस्ट्रोनॉट का इसरो के गगनयान मिशन के लिए चयन किया गया है।
And we now take a look at what else is happening across the world. For the past 10 years, it has remained one of the modern era's greatest mysteries. Malaysia Airlines Flight 370, carrying 239 people from 15 countries, deviated from its scheduled route on March 8, 2014, heading from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing. The plane, a Boeing 777, veered off course and flown south for several hours after radar contact with it was lost. The reason for the plane's deviation and its exact location remains a significant aviation mystery. Essence held its 17th annual Black Women in Hollywood Awards, honouring black women who have made significant contributions to the entertainment industry. This year's honorees included Halle Bailey, Danielle Brooks and Catherine Busby. The event, hosted by rapper and actor Cliff Method Man Smith, will air on the OWN network on March 15th. A golf game near Melbourne was disrupted by a herd of kangaroos, as seen in a video of hundreds of marsupials crossing the 4th hole of the St. John course at Heritage Golf and Country Club in Victoria, Australia. Australia's Great Barrier Reef is experiencing a major coral bleaching event consistent with heat stress patterns over summer. The Great Barrier Reef Marine Park Authority confirmed the widespread bleaching event. Corals can survive but can stunt growth and affect reproduction. Australia has been lobbying to keep the reef off UNESCO's endangered list to maintain its heritage status and attract tourists. India is celebrating the festival of Maha Shivaratri today. The festival is devoted to honouring Lord Shiva and is celebrated to mark the wedding of Lord Shiva and Goddess Parvati. Devotees in Mauritius celebrated the Hindu festival with fervour and enthusiasm.
Maha Shivaratri, the great night of Shiva, today, where we have prayers in all around the Shivala, the Covils in Mauritius, and we have to stay awake whole night, and we do prayer 4 times, the 4 Pahar, Puja.
This is our culture, so we have to pray, you know. We have a very good moment here. Also people serving donation. The food is very nice, very delicious.
And 8th March is also celebrated as International Women's Day. The day is celebrated every year to promote a sense of unity and solidarity among women globally. Women workforce at India's public service broadcaster Doordarshan came together to share their experiences, support each other and celebrate their collective strength in pursuing equal rights and opportunities. Take a look.
Good evening. The headlines. Brisk to moderate polling is reported in the Nagaland Assembly elections.
For decades, Doordarshan's news presenters have been iconic figures, embodying trust and authority.
Government of all possible assistance.
Their reassuring presence during challenging periods in India's history cultivated a sense of trust and reliability among viewers.
This is Doordarshan News. Good evening and welcome. In the headlines, Finance Minister says austerity package will not go against the interests of the working class.
From a single news source in the 1980s, Doordarshan now boasts multiple channels catering to diverse regional and thematic audiences. To increase gender diversity in newsrooms, it implemented various initiatives, actively recruited and trained more women journalists, resulting in higher representation of women, not just in news reporting and anchoring roles.
Thank you very much, Ollie Barrett, joining us all from Westminster, London. You're watching DD India Global.
But also engineers behind the scenes, tasked with the most complex functions.
News changes every second, every moment. You have to handle you have to coordinate with the producers, with the editors and everybody. Sometimes as it's a male-dominated society, you have to face them. Sometimes you rebel and sometimes you don't.
From an alert technical director and a cohesive output editor, to the panel producers responsible for the functioning landscape in the broadcast system, all the roles are donned by women.
Has been the performance of India's youth brigade.
Introduction of policies like flexible scheduling and maternity leave benefits have strengthened work-life balance for women employees, contributing to a more inclusive and comprehensive news coverage. As trust in news remains a multifaceted concept, initiatives like training programs for women journalists and encouraging applications from diverse backgrounds help address the gender gap, and this will continue to be the priority. Bureau Report, DD India.
So cheers to all those women who are fighting bias and breaking gender stereotypes day after day. That's it in this edition of DD India Global. Do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. Connect with us on Facebook, X, formerly Twitter and Instagram. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Tanvi Taneja from my entire team in New Delhi. Thank you for watching. Namaskar.